In the late 1960s, the psychologist Walter Mischel began a simple experiment with 4-year-old children. He invited the kids into a tiny room containing a desk and a chair and asked them to pick a treat from a tray of marshmallows, cookies, and pretzel sticks. Mischel then made the 4-year-olds an offer. They could either eat one treat right away or, if they were willing to wait while he stepped out for a few minutes, they could have 2 treats when he returned. Not surprisingly, nearly every kid chose to wait. At the time, psychologists assumed that the ability to delay gratification in order to get that second marshmallow or cookie depended on willpower. Some people simply had more willpower than others, which allowed them to resist tempting sweets and save money for retirement. However, after watching hundreds of kids participate in the marshmallow experiment, Mischel concluded that this standard model was wrong. He came to realize that willpower was inherently weak and that children who tried to postpone the treat gritting their teeth in the face of temptation soon lost the battle, often within 30 seconds. Instead, Mischel discovered something interesting when he studied the tiny percentage of kids who could successfully wait for the second treat. Without exception, these high delayers all relied on the same mental strategy. These kids found a way to keep themselves from thinking about the treat, directing their gaze away from the yummy marshmallow. Some covered their eyes or played hide-and-seek underneath the desks. Others sang songs from Sesame Street, or repeatedly tied their shoelaces, or pretended to take a nap. Their desire wasn't defeated, it was merely forgotten. Mischel refers to this skill as the strategic allocation of attention, and he argues that it's the skill underlying self-control. Too often, we assume that willpower is about having strong moral fiber. But that's wrong. Willpower is really about properly directing the spotlight of attention, learning how to control that short list of thoughts in working memory. It's about realizing that if we're thinking about the marshmallow, we're going to eat it, which is why we need to look away. What's interesting is that this cognitive skill isn't just useful for dieters. It seems to be a core part of success in the real world. For instance, when Mischel followed up with the initial subjects 13 years later, they were now high school seniors. He realized that their performance on the marshmallow task had been highly predictive on a vast range of metrics. Those kids who had struggled to wait at the age of 4 were also more likely to have behavioral problems, both in school and at home. They struggled in stressful situations, often had trouble paying attention, and found it difficult to maintain friendships. Most impressive, perhaps, were the academic numbers. The kids who could wait 15 minutes for a marshmallow had an SAT score that was, on average, 210 points higher than that of the kids who could wait only 30 seconds. These correlations demonstrate the importance of learning to strategically allocate our attention. When we properly control the spotlight, we can resist negative thoughts and dangerous temptations. We can walk away from fights and improve our odds against addiction. Our decisions are driven by the facts and feelings bouncing around the brain. The allocation of attention allows us to direct this haphazard process, as we consciously select the thoughts we want to think about. Furthermore, this mental skill is getting more valuable. We live, after all, in the age of information, which makes the ability to focus on the important information incredibly important. Herbert Simon said it best: a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. The brain is a bounded machine, and the world is a confusing place, full of data and distractions. Intelligence is the ability to parse the data so that it makes just a little bit more sense. Like willpower, this ability requires the strategic allocation of attention. One final thought: in recent decades, psychology and neuroscience have severely eroded classical notions of free will. The unconscious mind, it turns out, is most of the mind. And yet, we can still control the spotlight of attention, focusing on those ideas that will help us succeed. In the end, this may be the only thing we can control. We don't have to look at the marshmallow.